Okay, so welcome. This is the fifth lecture on reliability and maintenance engineering. Today we are going to learn about the predictive maintenance of the machinery or the equipment which is involved with rotor dynamics. Basically, we will learn what is orbit diagram, and how it is getting generated, and by seeing the nature of orbit diagram and also the FFT, because we already in our some previous lecture we already got a very basic idea about FFT. So with orbit diagram and FFT, how we can predict the behavior or the nature or the dynamics what is happening there. Okay. So now just try to, here we will try to conceptualize how if there are two vectors are moving in particular locus, then what should be its trace. So now this black color circle, the big circle, this black color circle on the circumference of the black color circle, the small blue color circles are moving. The center is moving, means first the center is here, then the center is here and here, like that. It is center of this small blue color circle is moving like that, as well as the blue color circle itself rotating. So let us take one point on the periphery of the small circle. So I assume it is 0 degree. When this small circle is moved from this position to this position, by that time the point A is rotated minus 90 degree at it, and it is reached position B. And when from this position it is coming to this position, then that point B is shifted here, which is minus 180 degree. So let us take B dot. And when this small circle is moved from here to here, then it is rotated by minus 270 degree, which is C, and so on. Now if you try to make the trace of that particular point, you will get a locus of like this. Basically this locus is called the orbit diagram. Even though these things, if you simulate in any multi-body dynamics simulation software Adams. So you can very easily you can conceptualize how these things are happening. Okay, you can find out the trace, like small like the rotatable plugs of reactors. If you want to visualize its locus and how to optimize it, you can take the help of this kind of motion analysis in Adams, or there are SolidWorks also having that facility. So a lot of things. So this basically, this is the concept how the orbit diagram is evolved. Now take one simple example. Say this is a shaft. This is a shaft, and due to some reason we will understand it later, that it is the center of this shaft is moving, it is rotating. The shaft is rotating. It may be prime. You can consider this is the shaft of the prime mover, like turbine or motor or something. So this shaft itself rotating, and due to some reason the center of the shaft is following this elliptical path. Now arbitrarily I am considering 1.00 here, and along this line I am putting a array of proximity, and along this perpendicular line also I am putting a array of proximity, and after a certain sampling interval, timing, I am doing the time stamping, and after some certain timing interval I am logging the minimum distance captured by the proximity. So when this shaft is at position A, from this line I am capturing the distance, which is this one, and from this line I am capturing the distance, because this is the maximum distance. Similarly, when this center of the rotating shaft is moved from A to B, say this is the position B, I am capturing this distance as well as this distance. So for every sampling instant, if I able to capture these two distance, and if I plot it, so these are the distance, these are the position, and these are the x and y distance. That means you see position, sorry, in position A, that distance is around 64, and this distance is around 549. So you see that I am plotting, I am logging the distance, and after logging, once the full rotation is over, then if I plot it, this value, you will get a shape like this. Basically that is nothing but it is exactly will give the locus of this ellipse. So now if a rotating shaft is behaving like this, and by the help of some proximity, high accuracy proximity, if I able to log that distance, and if I plot it, do the proper post processing, then I will get a shape like this. That is basically called the orbit, which is followed by the rotating shaft. and that is a very important diagnostic method to understand the dynamical behavior of the rotating shaft. It's a very important measure of rotor dynamics. Okay, so far we have understood how the orbit diagram is evolved and how it can be captured, even though it involves, because the raw data, this is very what I can tell, this is the, for example, I am presenting this, but the raw data may not be that much smooth, lot of noises, all these things are there, so you have to involve high level of electronics to post process it. It is a different part of it may not, it is not in this course, but that is also very interesting. High accuracy, high precision and high accuracy data logging. You have to use high resolution ADC, high resolution ADC. For that, maybe 32-bit ADC, and the raw signal, you cannot use the raw signal directly to your controller. You need to amplify it. There you have to use programmable gain amplifier. So these are the different aspect of the data logging that if you want to learn in detail, that is already there. It is there in my another course, so we can learn it later, but here we are mainly forecasting today to analyze the orbit diagram. Now we will learn, or we will try to understand various type of orbit diagram. Now if from a rotor dynamics, if we are obtaining a orbit diagram in this as like this, that means the major axis, this is the major axis, this is the major axis, and this is the minor axis. If the major axis and minor axis are approximately equal, and this radius, this length is less, and the center of the ellipse is coinciding with the x and y axis, that means at the origin, then we can conclude that the rotating shaft, or you can call turbine, we are talking about, because I am going to give a practical example of a turbine. So we can tell the turbine does not have any significant residual unbalanced mass, and there is no external thrust or unbalanced thrust also. Okay. Now we are coming to the next picture. If the locus, if the orbit diagram is elliptical, but the center of the ellipse at origin, then we can tell there is definitely some residual unbalanced mass. So how to predict that location and the amount of residual mass in the rotor, that we will learn in the next lecture with the analytical methods. This will be a, it will be a second order differential equation. some damping and the stiffness of the structure will play major role. So there will be how the excitation is causing due to unbalanced mass. We will learn it and we will do the solution for that. There will be two parts, we know, complementary function and the particular integral, and from there in the next lecture we are going to, by capturing the raw vibration data, how to predict where is the location of the unbalanced residual mass and how it is to be balanced. So for that, you know, ISO 1940, everybody will follow ISO 1940, that is the standard. So during the dynamic balancing of our plant, most of the pump rotor and all big large electrical rotating machines, induction machines, are balanced using this ISO 1940. One lecture will be there for detailed, with some detailed practical example, how the rotor is balanced as per the guideline given in ISO 1940. So if the orbit diagram is in elliptical shape, then definitely, and if it is, even though the center of the ellipse is at origin, but we can conclude that there will be some residual unbalance. Now we will learn because the example which we are going to elaborate, the example which we are going to discuss more, means the unfavorable condition which exhibits that particular orbit diagram. So to understand that, we need to learn the preload. What is preload? Basically we are considering here, there are several types of bearing that I am not going in details of that. So to understand this concept of preload, we are considering here a simple ball bearing. Okay, so preload is nothing, we have to apply, or it is transferring from the driven equipment. There is an axial thrust. There is an axial thrust which is applied to the bearing, and it is causing some unwanted vibration, and sometimes to reduce the excess play, we used to preload it. Actually, to conceptualize that preloading, I used to give one example. Say this is one spring. There is a big plate. This plate is fixed, and that spring shaft is coming out. Here is very rigidly one more plate is connected, and here is a hook. Okay. Now in the hook I applied, say here, you take 50 kg load. So on that 50 kg load, the gap earlier, this position, because this plate, when there is no load, it was here. After applying 50 kg load, this displacement occurred, which is F is equal to minus kx. We know this is the stiffness of the spring and this is the displacement x. And now that time, if I put a solid block here, and now I remove the 50 kg load, what will happen? This block, it will be as it is like this. After removing that 50 kg, if I apply 30 kg, what will happen? This block, say this block is A, the A block still will be rigidly placed there. Now if I apply 70 kg, what will happen? This X will increase and this block will fall down. That means after doing the, what I mean to say, we will understand in the next slide why preload is required for the stability. You see here this preload, the concept why I am telling this I preloaded the spring to maintain the stability of the block A. But if the some dynamic condition, if the dynamic load or the instantaneous load is increased more than the preload, then that stability of the block A is getting disturbed. So sometime we need to, in case of bearing also, by adopting some technique, we need to apply preload to maintain the stability of the system. If there is a unwanted thrust is coming, if the maintenance engineer able to understand that this much thrust will come, so it is better to preload the bearing earlier. This can give some better result. Okay. Now we are considering a ball bearing, as I told, for our simplicity, for our discussion simplicity. So you know, this is the outer race, this is the ball, and this is the inner race. This arrangement and the clearance, the play is decided by the manufacturer based on the dynamic capacity. Now you see in this condition, only this arrangement is well enough to take only the radial load. The dynamic loading, if it is acting radially, then this arrangement will not going to disturb the dynamic performance. Understand? But if there is a axial load coming, what will happen? If there is a axial load is coming, radial load coming, this can take care because the point of contact will be here. But if there is a axial load, what will happen? It will disturb the stability. From this figure it is very clear. We have to do something. Now let us consider this picture, and I will just try to show one thing. Say this is my this finger, this is my radial load and this is my axial load. If this thing is happening, what should be the, because two vectors are working. So now what should be the resultant? The resultant should be like this. Along my pen, some resultant will now if this is not there, only radial load will be there. It can work dynamically based on the situation or the based on the dynamics of the entire rotor. But if there is some axial load is coming, now the resultant load is not radial, it is some angle is there. Because two vectors, we know the vector summation law, parallelogram law we know. So now let us elaborate that. Now, as I told, this is my radial load and some axial load is coming like this. Maybe you can consider the prime mover is connected with some or you can tell turbine is connected with some alternator. They are due to some reason, maybe some it is achieving particular mode frequency. So in that mode frequency some misalignment occur. Due to that misalignment some axial force is developed. So this is that axial force and this is my already radial force, which my dynamic loading of the bearing is capable enough to take that. But some unwanted condition, if this axial load is coming, now the angle of the resultant load is getting changed. It's like this. That time what I should do? That time I should move. If you see the previous slide, now this position are at same point. So now if such kind of axial load is applied due to some reason, the maintenance engineer, what will do? He try to push the outer race in this direction and he will try to push the inner race in this direction. This will, why? Because now earlier the contact area is here, so it is not at all any problem is there. Now if such kind of things are there, then definitely I have to see that this area only it can quickly it can contact, which is this line is parallel to this line, okay, parallel to this line. So for that I have to do that arrangement. That means this area play is increasing, reducing, and this area play is increasing. Okay. Now I am coming to the next slide. You see, to mitigate this axial thrust, as the axial thrust is causing the resultant thrust to align in this direction, I am pushing the outer race in this direction and inner race in this direction. For that, now the rotating shaft can move, means it can follow the locus of the blue elliptical path. So why I am telling all these things? To avoid some unwanted known situation, if the maintenance engineer preload the bearing, then even though we can tell how much higher grade of rotor you are considering during your design, but zero unbalance is impractical. Zero unbalance is that is the ideal case. There should be some unbalance. So definitely most of the practical case in bigger size rotor, your this is I am telling from my practical experience, you will get the orbit diagram elliptical only, more or less you will get elliptical only, because zero balance, zero dynamic balancing, making zero is very difficult. It will be elliptical, but after this case elliptical also, if there is a preload which is causing to, if the maintenance engineer doing that preloading in the bearing, your ellipse will be, the orbit diagram will be tilted. Now you see the major axis get tilted. Now if there is a preload working on the rotating shaft, if you preloaded the bearing, you will get a locus or the orbit diagram whose major axis will be getting tilted. And for this tilt, because my x-axis is like this, for this tilt, what is the direction of axial load, that also we can predict. I am considering another situation. If I am doing severe preload, some technician who don't have that much idea, he is thinking, okay, if I adjust the gap more, maybe it may reduce. So for that there is a severe preload, means the gap reduced very less. So now you see, from there you can understand this, when in this area only it is clearance is less, but if that shaft is coming out from this region, it is getting more wider, so it can move like this. So if you basically in this area, it can move like this. So in case of severe preload, you will get the orbit diagram in this shape. Maybe not always the preload is from the bearing side for adjustment. It may come from steam jet, because turbine, it is operating by steam turbo. It's a steam operated. That is a turbine is a expander. It is getting expanded and the energy is converting to rotational torque and RPM. That's why the symbol of turbine is expander. It is opposite to compressor, expanding. It is like this, expanding. So this pressure is getting expanded and the energy, it is converting to rotational torque and RPM. So this may happen due to misalignment. Misalignment may initially, because there are a lot of mode frequency, due to, suppose we are very nearly to that, so it will change the mode shape. This will cause the misalignment. Or during installation, this may happen, or the thrust may come from the driven equipment. So if this kind of situation is happening due to high level of preload, then we will get the orbit diagram in this fashion. Now these things I have simulated. These things I have simulated in my lab. I have the vibration simulation system. So there I given, this is a very simple system we made. There is a BLDC machine, because you know BLDC very high frequency, we can operate the BLDC at a very high frequency, very high RPM. So the bearing cover I given just to understand that the play is made slightly higher, and one I think 40 gram is added. I cannot exactly remember those figures, but I am telling some unbalanced mass we added there, and we operated the entire rotor at around 3000 RPM. and I took the uh, orbit diagram and I obtained like this. So if there is a more loose, due to more loose, it is rubbing, bouncing, and like this happening, and you will get a if you filter that raw data, you will get a things like this. Okay. So this I am trying to give you. Today's lecture is completely on pictorial way. I am not going to any deep analytics, mathematics. That we will do in the next lecture. We will understand. Now coming to one practical data. Unfortunately, I don't want to. I cannot able to share from where I got this data, because this is from outside industry. Due to their privacy or proprietary right, I cannot disclose this from where I got it. But this, they gave me this data for analyzing and to give my opinion. So for your better understanding, I am presenting it, but unfortunately I am not able to tell from where I got this data. It is a rotor dynamics. It is also like a turbine, or it is a turbine, you can say. This is the unfiltered. Unfiltered orbit diagram. Let us filter it and see what is there. You see, after filtering, it is like this. Now, so far whatever we have understood, from there, by seeing this picture, what we can conclude? As the first thing is, seeing that picture, it is elliptical shape. So number one, I can tell there will be some residual unbalance. Now this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. But the thing, you see, the major and the minor axis tilted. What we learned, if the major and minor axis of the orbit diagram, if it is getting tilted, that means there is a preload. So this is the, so far whatever we learned, from there we can infer if this is happening, this is the case. Now let us take the FFT of that particular bearing plane. So this turbine was rotating at 3000 rpm. So 3000 rotation per minute. So in 60 seconds it is rotating 3000. So how many, for 1 second, how many complete cycle? How many cycles are completed? 50 cycle. So 50 cycle per second means 50 hertz. So the vibration data fundamental is 50 hertz. And now if you take the FFT, already we learned what is the FFT. Means through some software we have seen already. So you see, this point is 50 hertz, which is the fundamental, and it is giving the highest peak. Then this is 100, second harmonic 150, 200, 250, 300. All the harmonics I am getting the peak. That means along with the fundamental, I am getting all other peaks, but they are lesser than the fundamental, and it is random in fashion. Sometimes high, low, like that happening. What its mean? Its meaning is the somewhere there is some looseness. Okay, there is some unwanted looseness. So if in FFT we are getting such thing, all the harmonics are present and they are random in fashion, then we can conclude that there is some looseness. So far whatever we learned for this particular case, we can tell definitely there is some residual unbalance, there is some preload. That preload may come from the driven equipment, or as it's turbine, it's coming from the steam jet, or somewhere some axial thrust is working, and due to that it is that ellipse is getting tilted. It is very clear, and there is some unwanted looseness, which is we can conclude from the FFT. So what the corrective action can be taken? You can try to find out the location of the residual mass. That we will be learning in our next lecture, how to find it out from the vibration data. Or today lot of equipments are there. Some equipment. I am familiar with VV8. They are directly, if you connect the transducer in the bearing plane, it will tell at what radius, at what angle, at that particular, because you know this is a function of, because your excitation is your instantaneous excitation is A sin omega t. So when we are computing the particular integral, so definitely in the bottom part there will be the auxiliary equation, it will come. So it will cause some phase change. That means in the solution finally it may come A dot sin omega t minus phi. This is the phase, and this phase is dependent on the damping and the stiffness of the structure, and those are the frequency dependent parameters. Okay, so in different frequency the phase will change. So those are the things we will be learning in our next lecture. So today lecture was pictorially, I have represented, I have shared my industrial experience, what I used to practice, that is from my practice, and hope we have understood the orbit diagram. And even though there are a lot of other kind of indications, so these are the very common I have shown you, because this is a very basic course for you. So this will give a very good idea, I hope, so that by seeing the orbit diagram you can conclude, or you can predict the healthiness or the dynamic behavior of the rotor. Thank you so much.